9. Yes, we ended Genesis 6:8. So let's see, give me 1 second. Let me bring up 6:8 just to go over what we went over. So we went over that there was a shift that happened in verse 8. Oh, I should probably share my notes with you guys, right? That is, sorry guys, I'm posting up the notes right now. I'm guessing this is it. Yes. All right, I just posted the Genesis chapter 6 verses 9 and 10. All right, so in verse 8 again, we were talking about that because in verse 8 it says, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And we spoke about how the word "but" usually signals a shift or like a contrast. And it's kind of like it's a shift that God is going to change that hopelessness, right? Or what's happening in the sense. Yes, that would be fantastic. Forgot about them. And then sometimes that "but" introduces mercy, grace, deliverance, and redemption. We went over how Noah's name, it meant rest and comfort. That Noah becomes the main figure of hope in the flood story. We went over how he found grace. So this is the first time grace appears in the Bible. And it means undeserved favor, divine favor, mercy, charm, elegance. So it says that Noah had found grace. So righteousness doesn't earn grace. Grace produces righteousness, right? So Noah was a sinner living in a completely wicked world. And it says, in the eyes of the Lord. So humanity had become corrupt in God's sight, but God still saw Noah differently. Okay, so that was pretty much the summary of verse 8. And now we are starting verse 9. And verse 9 says, this is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a just, okay, I'm on the right one. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God. Anyone else?
This is the account of Noah and his descendants. Noah had God's approval and was a man of integrity among the people of his time. He walked with Elohim.
This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, the only blameless person living on earth at the time, and he walked in close fellowship with God. That's the notes. All right. So, do you guys see any differences between the three verses?
This is the genealogy of Noah, or the New King James Version, and then NOG says this is the account of Noah and his descendants, and then NLT says this is the account of Noah and his family.
Amen. I like that one New King James says Noah was a just man compared to NOG where it says Noah had God's approval. Having God's approval sounds so much more powerful in the sense where it's like you got approval from the Most High God, right? Instead of just being a just man or a righteous man. So to me, that part where it says Noah had God's approval, it kind of just hits different. Anyone else? No? And the New King James Version says perfect in his generations compared to NLT where it says the only blameless person. Perfect is kind of gives off like no blemishes, no type of sin in a sense, but we're going to get into that actually.
For the NLT version where it says, and was a man of integrity. I was reading Job lately, and he was like, I'm a man of integrity. Why is God punishing me? So it's almost like I've done nothing wrong, and God has like basically turned his face from me. In this instance, Noah is rewarded for his integrity, not perfect, but I'll say being a blameless man living on earth. Current generation who's wicked.
Right. Amen. Amen. Anybody else before we move on from the chart? No? Okay. So this verse, it gives a description. So this is God's description of Noah, right? This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God. So this part where it says this is the genealogy of Noah, it's a transition statement. It's a transition statement meaning this is the account of, or here begins the story or history of. It's the shift is fully on Noah and his family. So now it's directly focusing on Noah and his family. So it's shifting from the corruption that's happening or the wickedness that's happening in the world. Now it's shifting into Noah's family, right? So it says Noah was a just man. The word just in Hebrew, it means just, lawful, righteous. This does not mean that Noah never sinned. It means that Noah genuinely sought to live according to God's ways. We are all sinful people. But the fact that Noah tried to live according to the way God wanted us to live, that's what makes him just. God knows that we're going to fall short, right?
Like when he hit that rock.
That was Moses. So Noah was righteous, not sinless. His righteousness was not perfection. It was faithful obedience and a heart turned towards God. And I have my notes where it says we're going to sin, guys. It is in our nature. I pretty much gave you that spew. But a heart turned towards God and our obedience to God is what is being considered. Hebrew 11:7 says, by faith Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. We see here in Hebrew 11:7, we see here that Noah was known to act by faith. Noah trusted God even when the culture around him did not. How hard is it for us to be in the type of culture that we are in right now and still be like, God's got it? It's so hard.
I'm in that. I believe it all.
Huh?
I believe it all that right now. I've been really good with it.
What were you going to say, Liana?
I've got it.
Especially with cancel culture right now, like if you do anything, it's just like, oh,
Canceled.
can't trust you.
Right.
You might lose your job. What?
Right. Right. Right.
I have an opinion?
Yeah, exactly. I can't have an opinion now. Yep, that's true. And the fact that Noah trusted God even when the culture around him did not. Like he was like, no, this is what God told me. Even when they probably called him crazy for building this big behind ark with no steering. They didn't have one of those things that just kind of just floated. You know, they probably called him crazy until they seen the waters getting a little too high. Right? And it says perfect in his generations. The word perfect in Hebrew means complete, whole, entire. Not that it doesn't say flawless or without sin. Note, that's what I meant. Note that it doesn't say flawless or without sin. Noah remained morally pure in a corrupt generation. And when I was like looking at morally pure, you know, it was giving me like that his morals with God stayed pure with God. Like he didn't like the way I see it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it is like when somebody, can you imagine like you're around a bunch of people that are against the Lord, right? And you are the only one that trusts in the Lord. You might feel intimidated to kind of like speak up for God, or speak up for Jesus, or speak up for your religion, or for what you believe in. And the fact that like Noah remained morally pure in that aspect, you know, and it's going to get harder. And you know, especially as they pursue over there, especially as they pursue like they continue to come after us Christians, you know, as they continue to persecute us Christians. How are we going to be in that? Can you imagine how you would be in that situation? You know? And right now we might say, yeah, I'm going to stand for the Lord. Well, how do you know for sure if you haven't been in that? I can only hope that if that time ever comes for me, that I'm going to stand firm in what I believe in, whether that means, you know, I'd be martyred, you know, for the Lord. And so it's like, you know, it's to know that even when people were calling Noah crazy, that Noah stood pure, right? Then it says, Noah walked with God. And if you guys remember, this phrase was previously used. And if you guys remember that this phrase was previously used, can anyone remember who it was used for?
Adam.
That one? After that one? Enoch. Yep, good. Look at you guys. Enoch was the only other person besides Adam thus far to have said to walk with God. This phrase means a relationship with the Lord, fellowship with the Lord, obedience to the Lord, and closeness with God. Noah didn't just know about God, he lived with God. He walked with God. Walking implies consistency, guys. A walk is ongoing, it's daily, it's continual. This wasn't some timey religion. This wasn't random spirituality, or this wasn't the belief that is just surface level. When you walk with somebody, like even if you're walking Cooper apart, you're going to make sure you have conversation with said person, because then that's a long 4 miles with nothing to say. So this verse itself, it shows a beautiful contrast. The start of Genesis 6, it starts off with corruption, with violence, with evil, but then in verse 9 it says Noah walked with God. It was one man moving against culture and against the current, and I put against the current because I thought of the chosen and their symbol with all the fishes going in the same current, and then there's those select fishes that's going against the current, against the masses, against culture. So this was one man that was going against the current, right? So, all right. So we move on. Any questions before we move on to Genesis 10? Genesis 6:10. Sorry. No? All right. So Genesis 6:10. I know you guys can't see this. I need to get a better marker. It says, and Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
He had 3 sons. Noah was the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Any differences you guys see there?
And Noah begot 3 sons. He had 3 sons. Noah was the father of 3 sons.
So different words of. Go ahead.
He was saying was past tense. Is that a past tense?
Well, yeah. Yeah, was is past tense. You're right. That's good. That's NLT.
Technically, you can use was because this is being written after his time. It's not being written at the time of Noah himself, so it's not. You can't say it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Moses wrote Genesis, right?
That's the belief. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Anything else before we move on? All right. And it says Noah begot 3 sons. So at first this verse seems really simple, right? But it actually introduces the future of humanity after the flood. Like this verse where it says, and Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, Japheth. I don't know if I'm saying it right. But can you imagine, after the flood, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, they're the ones that repopulate the whole world all over again. So this verse is so strong. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
Because I don't know if this is accurate.
Go ahead.
So Noah and his children were the only humans that were in the.
So it was Noah, his wife, and then his kids and their wives. That's it. That's it. So these are the ones that repopulate the whole world again. Yeah.
And we didn't discuss last week about the when you think again about the creation of the world, we were saying that the windows of heaven and of course also the portals of the earth that were all open and all that water that was initially separated returned. So it's kind of symbolically restarting from Genesis verse 1, where you're starting right back with just a void of just water all over the earth, but the only thing that's going to remain at this point, and of course we're a little bit ahead of ourselves, is it's going to be a little ark just floating in the waters when the rest of the earth is covered by water.
And that ark has all of the 2 animals of each, so it's like it is kind of like and we talked about last week that it's like Eden's like blueprint.
Yes.
In this little ark. It's like a time capsule of like Adam and Eve, and then like the creation of God in this little, so it's the way God works is just so great. And even I know some scholars even call him kind of like Noah, kind of like the second Adam, because he's kind of like starting creation again with like him and his wife and kids. So
I can't even imagine having that job, trying to repopulate the planet. I don't even have one child. Having like a couple of them is hard enough.
2 stress me out.
You imagine?
And of course, again, we're thinking about ahead of time or getting ahead of ourselves here, but it's starting with Noah and his wife. It doesn't say anything about Noah and his wife specifically having any more children beyond the 3, right? But then you're going, like, we were just at a point where we had a whole bunch of humanity on the earth that were having children a lot more, whereas now we're starting right fresh. We don't know if Shem, Ham, and Japheth have their wives pregnant, and now they're going to have 1 birth per year, basically, if that. Because it doesn't say anything about did any other women lose any of the children, through like how many survive or how. So now they have to wait any specific length of time, to then have to repopulate the earth. It's going to be a very, very slow process. Like when you think about the whole Genesis chapter 1 or Genesis chapter 3 and forward.
But we're gonna see that there's like nations that come out of these 3 nations, So, and we can't necessarily say how long it took them to have kids, because at this time they were still able to freely populate, and we spoke a couple verses ago how God was kind of like cutting down the years, you know, until they reached the 120 mark.
Pregnant, 9 months back then.
Oh, I don't know. I'm assuming.
I'm assuming if it was still the same process, it would be
Right.
a registration. But you know, like thinking about everything, and then the other fact, I know that we're going to be going over where some of the nations potentially come from, but then the other thing that comes to my mind that we haven't gotten to is going to be the Tower of Babel, where God confuses the tongues of people, right? But
I think that's in here.
well, yeah, I mean, if it's in there, that's cool. But like when I study and I try to think about, you know, like did God cause the tongues of people within the same families to be confused? Where now the actual nations aren't coming from specifically from Shem, Ham, and Japheth, but it's like a mixture based on language. So like say like, you know, God creates the Egyptian language, and now one family has multiple persons, you know, that have now different languages. You know, it used to be you know, two brothers, and now one brother speaks Egyptian and one brother speaks, you know, Japanese or something.
Right.
And now the languages have been confused, and that's where the nations are now coming from. You know what I mean? Like there are certain things that the Bible isn't very clear on, or it's not going to be clear on exactly how that part, the confusion came through.
And that's probably not important in God's eyes.
Perhaps, but with me, when I guess I go a little bit deeper, but it's like if the intention of man was to kind of you know, try to
Bless
put
you.
itself in a higher pedestal to try and reach the heavens, if God would allow the same family to retain their same tongue, then perhaps that same family could still continue that process.
Isabella.
You know what I mean?
Is that more so? Listen to them trying to keep up. Is that more so too like purposeful? Like,
Isabella.
in the way of speaking different tongues, but still connected with God, no matter what language barrier that you think is going to hinder you from connecting to a person, I still remain.
Yeah.
With the religion.
Yeah, I mean, you will still remain connected to God, but for me, I'm just thinking about the probability. Like, you know, man is stubborn, and we like to, when we start something, we want to finish it. You know, like, but so you're seeing a tower that, I mean, we're not there yet. You're probably going to touch on it, but when we're thinking ahead, where man is going to come from, you know, from these three people. If God keeps the same language by family, someone still that knows whatever original language was, they can still try to continue that same work.
Right.
But if God confuses the tongues of everyone, even within the family itself, where now the family has to go separate ways because they no longer are able to communicate or understand each other, it's separated the actual family itself by languages, then perhaps, you know, when we consider, as we dive into, you know, what some of the nations, possibly where some of these people came from, it could be an intermixing of other families by tongue.
Right.
And now, you know, by them getting together.
It could, well, it could be, but I think the people, well, we'll look into it, and plus we still got some time to get into Babel as well.
Yeah.
So when we go into Shem, Ham, and Japheth, just note that obviously I didn't put all of the information in each name because we are going to touch those when we get into Genesis chapter 10. We're going to go into them more in depth. But for Shem in Hebrew means name or renown. These names mean a lot in biblical history, as we have, I hope we have kind of like drilled in your head that their names were powerful back then, and they meant something, and they, you know, usually kind of showed you where they were going in a sense. But in Genesis 10, it's often called the Table of Nations, Genesis 10. And it later explains how nations spread through them. Shem's line becomes especially important biblically because, one, Abraham comes from Shem's line. Abraham, as we know, is known as the father of faith. God called him to leave his homeland. God made a covenant with Abraham and promised that all nations would be blessed through his offspring. Then from Abraham comes Israel. Israel comes through Shem. And remember that Isaac is known as the son of promise. Remember, Isaac's name, God later changes it to Israel. And he continued Abraham's covenant line. Jacob, he changed Jacob's name. Jacob, also known as Israel, is known for being the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. His name was changed to Israel by God. Then eventually through Shem's line, also Jesus comes through this line, and that is in Luke 3, if you guys want to look at that lineage. Jesus Christ is known to be obviously the promised Messiah and Savior, and he came through the line of Shem, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and David. Overall theme of Shem's line, and they call Shem's line the Semitic. How do you say that? Semitic? Okay. And again, the overall theme is covenant, worship to God, the Hebrew people, and the Messiah, right? So then we go to Ham, and we're gonna eventually go deeper into Ham, I believe, in the next few chapters. So Ham in Hebrew means hot or warm. He is known for powerful ancient kingdoms and nations that surround Israel. Ham's descendants are connected to several ancient nations, including, and it's not funny because that's the wrong word. Because it's a coincidence. Not a anyway, so Ham, if you guys know the story, Ham was the one that seen his father naked, or whatever. We're gonna get into that story. And if I get the story right, Noah eventually cursed Ham for seeing him naked and not covering him, whatever. And it's funny how Ham's descendants are like one of the descendants that come from Ham is Egypt. And Egypt is known for one of the greatest civilizations of the ancient world. Enslaved the Israelites for 400 years. Pharaoh opposes Moses during the Exodus. He is also, under Ham, is also known the Canaan, which they are known for the land God promised to Israel, home to many wicked nations Israel later confronted. And they under Ham is Nimrod through Cush, and they're known for mighty hunters and powerful rulers associated with founding of Babel, and they symbolize human pride and rebellion. So this is where with John, it seems like, and we have to of course study it more, it seems like the people that were creating Babel come from Ham's lineage, and it seems like that God may have broken or may have divided the tongues in a way with Ham's lineage, and I can't wait to actually dive into that. That struck.
That sucks.
And then another nation that was under Ham is Put, and they're known for ancestors of people associated with North Africa, likely Libya and surrounding regions. So some major biblical enemies of Israel later emerged from Ham's line. So I thought it was interesting that Ham later on is cursed by Noah because of the whole nakedness thing, and his lineage is the lineage of a lot of Israel's enemies. I thought that was so interesting. So the overall theme for Ham's line is powerful kingdoms, ancient civilization, nations surrounding Israel, and both cultural achievement and rebellion against God. Lastly is Japheth. Japheth in Hebrew means may he enlarge or fair. So Japheth is known for expansion, nations, and the spreading across the earth. His descendants spread into Europe and parts of Asia, traditionally associated with Greeks. How do you say that word, guys? Medes? How do you say the third one? Scythians, okay. And then various European people. Their overall theme of Japheth's line, again, is expansion, nations, and coastlands. growth across the earth. A lot of scholars believe that Japheth's line is the oh my gosh, the Gentiles. They believe that the Gentiles come from like Japheth's line. So we do have to obviously look into that when the time comes, because again, all of this we're going to get into depth more in Genesis 10. So why this matters? It reminds us that God preserved humanity through one family, through a family. The flood was not the end of humanity. Noah's faith affected future generations, and because Noah walked with God, his family was preserved, humanity continued, future covenant promises remained possible, and one person's obedience impacted the future of the world. And me per se, I think I love the fact that, like, when you go into each line and to see what nations come out of these three and how they ultimately affect Israel in the long run, it's crazy. And to know that even the Gentiles come from these three. And it was, in so much so that, like, I think when me and John, when I first started doing the lineage at my house, I had told John, I was like, did you know that the Gentiles come from Japheth's line? And he was like, I don't think necessarily, or I forgot what it was that we were kind of like on the fence. But if you think about it, like, these men were the men that had to repopulate everything. The Gentiles had to come from one of them. So I can't wait to get into that. And then I thought it was amazing that Ham was the one that gets cursed, and then his lineage, a lot of his lineage are actually enemies of Israel. So it's crazy how, like, because he disobeyed or because he did something crazy,
the Bible says what it is. What he did. We'll dive into that.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that. But the fact that he did something that Noah was like, no, that's just out of,
There's a couple of theories of what he did, so we can go into depth.
Yeah.
That one gets
Yeah, and to know that because he disobeyed on something, it affected his lineage. So we just, exactly. I was just about to say that. Those generational curses, we see how they affect humanity, and even Ham's lineage they're gonna go against Israel. So.
And it's crazy that his dad is the one that started that curse. That's not a curse from God. That was a curse from the father.
Yeah.
But it shows you, like, there's a power in your speech.
In the tongue.
You say. And,
there is power in the tongue.
Time, in biblical time, your tongue, your blessings blessed and your curses cursed. And it was, now whether it realistically was making any changes or causing any actual changes, we don't know. But it could just be even a psychological thing where if a father, like, you tell a child that, that they're terrible, that they're never going to amount to anything, and how, watch how it will impact their lives. Like, a lot of them are able to break through and have successful lives, but the majority of them, they believe it and they take it, and it affects them in the long run. Whereas somebody who has a parent that is always encouraging them and telling them, oh, you can do whatever you want, you can be whoever you want, you just got to put your effort into it. They actually make the effort, you know what I mean? Like, and you can see it culturally a lot of times, where you can see certain cultures, they push their children to be specific people. Like in the Asian community, they're very good with math, very good with businesses, very good with what's like the sciences, medical professionals. Same thing with the Indian community. But that's something that is instilled in them, from the beginning, that they're able to continue pursuing. But then a lot of other cultures, such as the Latino culture, a lot of families don't have that same push, for that purpose. But we're very closely knit when it comes to families. So we have, like, we may not look into having, businesses or having a lot of other professions. And again, this is just some families are able to do more, of course, but for the most part, like we hold very true and we're very strong when it comes to family. We love being together. We love spending time together. We love growing the family and keeping the family close knit. Whereas you can look at other families that they're not so close. They may have, financial blessings. They may have, monetary blessings, materialistic blessings, but they're not as close knit, or they have other struggles within themselves.
Right.
So every culture, every family has certain things that they deal with, that they struggle with, and things of that sort. But it shows you that the power itself is in the tongue. Especially in this time and age, a father's blessing was like, it really impacted people,
Right.
and the curse really impacted people as well.
Right.
And of course, we'll dive into that as we continue going through Genesis,
Right.
particularly when we get to Jacob, because that's where we're going to see how blessings and curses really are impacting the families, and how they develop because of it.
Right.
So,
And even seeing how Noah cursed Ham, it shows that parents, it's a need to speak life into our children, and that's very important. We haven't touched it now, but we can see that because of the situation or what Ham did, Noah was so upset about it that he didn't speak life into Ham, and this is ultimately what happened. Now they have his lineage, nations, going against Israel. So
The crazy part is, side note, real quick, side note. So I got like I don't know if it's slang, but going ham. Doesn't even pop in my head. So when I Googled it, it talks about like it's a slang that people use back in the day when I'm going ham. Basically, it talks about intensity. That's the definition. Going with intensity or maximum effort.
Right.
So that was funny. But aside from that,
remember that.
you going ham?
Yeah.
You going ham? Like,
I'm bringing it
okay,
back.
like you going ham? All right.
I'm bringing that back.
I
I'm
don't
bringing
know.
a lot.
But aside from that, when you talk about the parent part, it's crazy because I think in a funny way, maybe not funny way, you said not a funny way, but the part of the correlation, we talk about being a parent, I think God is showing us like what it really means to be a leader / parent, even from like his characteristics. For example, when you look at Adam and Eve, and we talk about like you see the importance of a parent speaking life, even in the name, right, your child, and like background stories. Okay, hey, I'm praying on my child, even before they got words, things that make you set the tone already, because you have posture your heart, so you change your character. So when we look at it, we never saw, like y'all was saying, you never seen Adam actually talk to his kids and be like, yo, Enoch, boom, boom, or so
Right.
so on. You've never seen that,
Right.
but it's just assume his character changed because of the direction of him having to relearn his wife,
Right.
reconnect with her, right? But then you fast forward, you get this situation where now it's also showing you the discipline of a parent and how you can check a kid, and like just by voicing certain things, not more so their names, but their character, their action.
Isabella.
Like, you can talk about their behavior and action versus the name. So
Right.
now it's like, yo, now it's that third, and going to your point, he walked with God. So the authority part of it, you can low key be like, he one-on-ones, like,
Yeah.
not saying God, I don't want him, but it's like, all right, yo, like, God can't walk with me, bro. Like, so
Right.
walk with me. Hey, yo, you don't
Right.
wrong. And then it's like, because of that authority, it still goes back to Cain and Abel conversation. Because when you look at it, two of them, but then when you look at it, like, oh, we lost a kid, and we lost another kid, and then here's this other kid.
Right.
So when you look at it, the three of them, it's like, all right, you're the king in the situation.
Right.
Because you did wrong, but the difference is Adam didn't have accountability. Adam didn't have the same.
Right.
He walked with God, but he didn't do the same actions
Right.
that Noah did.
Right.
So when you look at it, it's like, all right, Noah's handling differently to him what Adam did to Cain.
Right.
And that conversation piece where it's like, all right, no, like, you cursed, bro. And then when you look at the formula, how it panned out, you have to have mercy. And that's the story, too. I think that the other part of it is when you look at the serpent and everything else, when we get to this part, we had to have Cain for able to even be what he was, and then
Right.
fall in suit. And then when you look at it, things of nature, but when you look at this one, it's like, I don't know how to say the third
Japheth.
Look at Japheth, and you look at Shem. Them two are relevant because of Ham. In a sense, he had to get an adversity part to them two.
Right.
For the story to even keep going.
Right. Right. No, and I think it's great, and just us going into the fact that, like, well, obviously we're not there yet, but how Noah curses Ham, it just kind of like, it can. We have a lot of parents in the room, and then two, we have educators in the room. So it's like our words, even if they're not our kids, can affect. Like we have to be like, you know, I teach high schoolers, and I know there's a couple other educators here. So it's like what we say to these young people can change the trajectory of where they're going. So just be mindful that your words can can definitely, you know, destroy. So are there? Good. I was just about to ask.
So I asked John earlier about like the curses from generations before. How would like nowadays, how would we get rid of that curse from generations before that we don't know?
That's a good question.
How do we?
How do we? I think acknowledging them first, because a lot of people don't even acknowledge that there's, like, I know in my family, I know that there's a drug curse. Like, they get, my family, especially the guys in my family, they get heavily addicted to drugs, and knowing and understanding that the enemy is out for the men, whether we want to believe that or not. The enemy is out for the men, because if I can get the man knocked out, then the woman and the children cannot be a powerful unit, because God created the husband, the wife, the man, the woman, and then the children. If I can knock out the man from the picture, then that family unit is already weakened. And then they go after the children, because you can have a firm mom, but then if the enemy's like, I'm going to go after the young boys. So it's that the enemy is going to attack the men. And then
The curse part, like, it starts the same thing that can affect everybody. The same thing you have to fix, like how you look at biblically. So basically, the man got to check the situation.
I think that we need to, one, be praying for any man in our life, whether it be our Bible study guys, whether it be our fathers, whether it be our guy cousins, whether it be just men in general, right? Because the enemy is going to attack the man. If the enemy can get into your head and start planting little seeds of poison, it's over. It's over, you know? And so, and then especially like in my family, a lot of another generational curse is single moms. And then single moms raising boys. A mom can do but so much, but a mom cannot teach a man how to be a man. So they grow up learning how to be a man from the streets, thinking that guns is going to do it, thinking that drugs is going to do it, thinking that fast money is going to do it. And I'm talking out of experience. So when me growing up, you know, with my stepmother, I grew up with her. She grew up telling me I was gonna have different baby dads just like my mom. That I was gonna be a hoe just like my mom. Most of you guys, for those that do know, my mom got pregnant with me at 13. So me and her are pretty close to age. So like we're pretty close to age. So when you see my mom, and for those that are coming tomorrow, you're probably gonna see her tomorrow, like it's like, hey buddy. And then, you know, and then me and my brothers are all pretty close to age. So it's like, you know, mom had to raise boys, and it's so hard. Yes, mom was strong. I mean, if mom had to come to school with the belt, she was coming, no matter principal was there, nothing. That it was mom tells me there was moments where she would come with the belt and the principal would leave the office. Like he knew what she was coming there for, right? So even though mom was a strict mom, and and for the most part, me and my brothers, we've been pretty close knit since. But it's like mom could do but so much. She needed that parental, she needed that. My brothers, whether they deny it, whether they're gonna watch this later on, they needed that father figure from the beginning. And because that was taken away from them, they had to figure it out, and they had to figure it out from other guys off the street that were probably no good, while mom is working hours and hours trying to just make ends meet. And now they themselves are trying to figure out how to be good dads now. So if you take the man out of a family unit, then it's like, to the enemy, it's like the kids are free for all. So pray for any man that you know, any young person that you know, because it is so important. And I believe that is one of the to go back to your point, if you can figure out what your generational curses are, it's easier for you to combat that generational curse. Because I knew my mom, one of the generational curses is a lot of the women in my family are single moms, and most of them have boys. And whether they want to believe it or not, because we're old-fashioned Hispanic, we don't believe in the mental health and all that stuff growing up. So a lot of my cousins have ADHD, don't even know it. A lot of my cousins and brothers have ODD, don't even know it. I look at them and I'm like, yep, you're definitely undiagnosed. So just understanding, even with that curse with my stepmom, that I was gonna be like a whore at 13, just like my mom, or that I was gonna have different baby dads just like my mom, I stood firm. I was like, nope, that's not happening. I'm 26. No, that's 26 with you. 20 years. 20 years and just one baby dad. So I guess acknowledging those, sometimes you got to reflect, what are the generational curses? And when you realize what the generational curses are, pray that it stops with you.
Talks about how he went back to asking for Jordan, and then he went back to knowing his mom and realized, okay, his mom had a Christian dad who was an activist, who was blah blah blah. She thought she could find the same thing, but she was traumatized by that killer. She go with the guy that's abusing her, and his brother sees this, and he's moving the family with other stuff. To Jason Wilson, and then he finds his way. My point is that whenever finding a root is one thing, right? But sometimes we might not be able to. People don't live no more. They're not around to tell you. In some cases, you got to look at yourself, and I'll give you an example. You got to look at it and be like, all right, what do you got going on? If you're going, for people that's going therapy or journey, you got to look at it like, all right, if you're journaling or you're going to therapy, or God is really saying something to you, you look at the word. Like you already, that's already a step ahead. Like you want to tell home. You want to tell home, you're doing something you can be in the street, like you want to do a prayer circle, like. The part of the prayer is like, thank you, God, to even keep me here.
Right.
I know where I could be at.
Right.
I know situations, we know situations. So you already broke half of whatever that situation, your generation is. So you gotta applaud, God, give him the praise. Also applaud your actions. Don't keep looking sometimes it's not for you to have the answers. Sometimes, like, you literally make a decision you make it is the answer. Like, to be honest with you, because a lot of times, again, you're not going to have, there's some people that's not in that right mindset because they generation, they can't even be honest with themselves and be like, yo, I was on drugs, or yo, I got raped, or yo, I was abused, or yo, that grandpa you just was saying happy birthday grandpa actually molested me. Like, I'm being with my personal situation is that my mom was molested me from my grandpa. Didn't know. I knew dude had a pair. He was rocking out cool, chilling. But found out later, I was like, yo, why would you even have me see him at the hospital? Keep telling me, like, cause she know how I feel about him. Like, literally how I feel about her. I mean, so she goes in the stand like, that's my situation. It's not your situation. Like, to even dissociate those two things is crazy to me. Like, looking back, but then from the believer standpoint, it's different. It's like, okay, hold up. Generational wise, if I got this hatred, if I got this whatever towards this guy, I gotta ask myself, why do I hate you? This is my mom. But then I'm like, all right, well, why did that to my mom? Because I couldn't defend her. I was a kid. Not even. She was a kid. So what am I really upset with? And then you gotta look at she became. There's so many different variables in it that you can wrap yourself around. So only God can answer that. You go to therapy to navigate you, and then go to scripture and be like, okay, now I know what these feelings are. Now I give these feelings to God. That's really the. But to put so much weight on this generation prior to you that might not be having answers, might not be believers, might not want therapy, might not be in the right mindset to even articulate that. Some of you is, I ain't going to residuals of drugs is crazy. But it, seriously. But it could also be that it's the pride thing too. Again, some people put something in the rug. If you depend on your age, like I'm 38, so like I had conversations with really people that's uncomfortable conversations. I had conversations with uncles that really like my sisters can't even be around. I had those conversations, and then they give you a story, and you gotta put stuff out. You gotta ask yourself, are you ready for that? People will also be like, oh, I'm ready. It's history. I want to know about what operates in the church. They want a rabbit hole. They're not ready for it spiritually.
Right.
So even that, having that conversation, and then you realize, wait, what up? I know. I'll give you an example. I know my mom wanted all us to be together. She didn't care about. I don't care if you respect me. I mean, I don't care if you love me or not. Whatever. You gotta respect me. But y'all won't be together. That conversation, that piece, always stuck with me to the point where him and his siblings do the same thing with it. But then you find out the reason why hers was like that because when her mom died, her siblings they always first, and they always opposite each other. And then you realize, like, oh wait, my dad was here. Oh, this person's here. You start getting all these little intangibles. But truthfully, none of it matters. The reason why it don't matter is because I'm close to my sisters. The reason why it don't matter is because if I wasn't close to my sisters, I would have found God. Because my sister, literally my older sister, both of them, one sister was like a brother to me. The other sister, when I became 17, when I was doing stuff out, whatever. So when I take that from the standpoint of if my mom never did that, right, regardless of her past, I never got close to God. And then me being close to God and the trials which I experienced, wouldn't be able to give the home. So the cycle broke, even when you didn't think it broke. You might look at it and be like, oh, you don't have to do that, bro. You don't. Something you're not going to have an answer. And what you're going to say to yourself, like, oh, I ain't got the answers. Dang, man, like, I'm ruined, I'm a bad person. No, you're not. If you're putting your guidelines next to the word, you're not. Give yourself a grace, give yourself an empathy to be like, yo, that's not on me. That's a situation. But I'm grateful for the situation, however it turns out. If it turned out bad, because that's something now I can grab the notes from. Okay, wait, no, you can do it. All right, I'm pulling that. I'm going to do this.
But you got to make sure you're grabbing the notes, because
yeah, if you can, then you might not be able to get the notes. Like, mental health is a whole different ballpark. Because on your point, you just said like, yo, somebody can have this, and you start trickling down like, oh, children can have this, my kid got to do that. Yeah. You see me, and
not even.
She's like, yo, great grandpa, yo. So that's all you drinking on.
And not even, and not even that. Sometimes, like, even with.
So, like, take my example. Okay. Right? Yeah. Grandpa. Great grandpa. That's a generational thing. So, like, for context, my dad did his stuff. Turns out my grandfather did the same. And it was just like a ongoing thing. So, in terms of my brother, it was like, oh, like, how could a person do that? They already know, like, what those feelings are because that happened to them. It's not about that. That's what they've seen. That's what they've been around. That's what they're used to. So subconsciously, however you want to call it, they're gonna do it too. Little do they realize. But it's about reflecting and, like you said, like being mindful and just diving deeper into yourself to say like, I'm not doing it. Like, stop with me.
Yeah.
I think it's also the ignorance part because I'll go back to me, like, talking about the man part. It's like, my father was a Rolling Stone. But the same token, I think I said this in my last one. Like, even the ego will tell you, like, no, I'm not going to do the same thing like you all and I'm not going to do that. What? That's crazy. But you, even from a Christian standpoint, you judge that situation, you be like, I'm not doing that situation. He was a nut. But the same token, the situation he had, we judge people based on their decisions, not the choices they had. So truthfully, you wasn't even trying to empathize with us because it's too uncomfortable. So you took it so personal when you could look at it like, hold up, all right, so he a nut. But in reality, you was faced with that same situation. Look what you chose. Somebody that's from outside of you, like, he was a nut. Like, so when you look at the situation, sometimes on their point, yeah, you like, it's generational subconscious, but then they go back to the ironic point I was saying too. It's a support. Do you want better for yourself?
Yeah.
So when you look at the Bible, part of it says fellowship. So if you look at fellowship, and you know people that know Christ or know people that want the best for you and challenges you, not trying to control or manipulate, but really want the best for you. Those are the people that then check you and be like, yo, bro, like, why are you talking to such a person? That doesn't make sense. That person's not good for you. Or why are you talking to him? He's not good for you. And then, like, well, did you really speak like y'all two talked about before? Like, had those conversations. And I think that's the part of, for a man who doesn't have a father or a woman who doesn't have a father or a mother, whatever it may be. It's not that you're trying to find replacements, but God will place people in your life that will show you the opposite. And you'll be wondering why I feel gravitated towards this person.
Right.
Sometimes it's because you got wounds. Sometimes it could be because God's like, hey, I didn't, yeah, you look at this person abandonment, but I need you to see this person so you can have better trust in me. Because like I talk about that word thing, abandonment issues, and why women can't even, or men can't even acknowledge, and I'll use this example, of God being a father in a trust issue because the worldly father is so much damage to you.
Right.
So when he places another man in your life, or another, brother, it could be somebody just here, and you be like, yo, I'm not even listening to this person. But you like the way they move, and they moving that way because of God. That changes your perspective, your optics going, okay, wait, this person is not, my dad was just a human being. He did what he did, cool. But I don't have to choose that. And then now, knowing that, you find some type of relief, not going away. You find some type of relief, hopefully in time, Jesus, it can. But then you look at God differently. And like for me, that's the thing I've been learning more so, is that my trust in God, even through situations with him, is like I can actually trust a little differently and understand that he's not man. Like, and that's the hurtful part, like in the sense that you realize how much he shows up and how much somebody did.
Right. And then also to just piggyback off of like when Alan said support, please like understand, surround yourself around people that are going to one, hold you accountable, and two, be that support for you, for the simple fact that, like, okay, for example, I have some women in my family that have gotten, molested by their father. And after that, with their dad, they have not been able to maintain a healthy relationship with a guy, right? But then there's me, where I got molested by somebody in my family, but because I had a dad that stood by me, and then cousins that maybe they couldn't have stopped that situation, they were very like, for a very long time, the friends of my brothers didn't even know they had a sister, because I'm their only sister. They didn't even know they had a sister. That's how on the low they had me, because they didn't trust nobody. I don't got a sister, why you want to know if I got a sister? Type situation, So yes, that happened to me, but I didn't hate, I guess, in the sense, I didn't hate men, because I had a dad who stood by me to show me a God-fearing man. And then I had my brothers and my cousins that were kind of like, who are you talking to? You ain't. You thought you was, but no, you ain't. to where it got to a point where, like, when they met John, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified of them. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna beat him up. John's a church boy. What are we gonna do?
I remember that.
I was stressing. And then, and then lo and behold, he knew every single one of my brothers and every single one of my close cousins. Like, they met him, they was like, oh, that's John. I was like, that's John? What do you mean that's John? So I'm thinking,
You from the trenches?
right, I'm thinking, so it's like, you know, me being molested by this family member, it could have shaped me. And it shaped me in the sense where Mimi is not allowed to be on anybody's lap. No man, I should say. No man's lap. No, I don't care who you are. One of my uncles came from Puerto Rico, and I literally had the conversation up the steps to my dad's house. You sit on this man's lap, I'm beating you. Like, you don't sit on nobody's lap. And I'm just even with Will, and Will's her godfather. If she's sitting on Will's lap, nope. And Will knows and understands, no, we know why your mom, we know, you know? So,
If I ever do have her sit on that, it's just like
on the side.
Right, yeah.
Because I've just seen the worst. So it's like, I'm very meticulous with my daughter and with who she sits on their lap. But I feel like if I didn't have the support system that I had with Dad and my brothers and my male cousins, I could have been like some of the women in my family that is from one broken relationship to the other. Because it's like, I don't know what it is. They just go into a relationship where the men are just disrespectful and cheaters or abusive. And I'm like, if you fix the trauma from your dad, then maybe you can start healing and getting into a better relationship. But they need that support, I suppose, that like she needs a better support system. So I would definitely say, yes, recognize where those traumas come from, where those generationals come from. If you can't figure out where the generational curse come from, pray. God said, ask and you shall receive. Just be ready when he gives it to you. Because when God gives it to you, you might, it might be too much. It might be too much.
Slowly, Lord, slowly.
Right. Right. And then make sure that you have a good support system around you. And for those that don't even know that they have, or they are battling generational curses, I would definitely reflect, because there goes a generational curse with Ham, that his lineage was in battle pretty much with Shem's lineage. So it's like, just make sure that you go back, in the sense.
Wasn't like people in his family killing other people because of
Yeah. So I would definitely reflect on those generational curses. We are here if you guys want to talk about it. Anything else before we close out the Bible study today? We're closing out a little early for those that didn't hear me when we came on. We are closing out a little early today. No. Women definitely have their calling.
Pray for the men.
It's a pivotal moment, though. Like,
it is.
the pivotal part.
It is. It is. Just like they messed up with the fruit. Just like they messed up with the fruit.
Oh, hey, we won't remember. See how everybody got quiet.
We can go back into that.
We're not.
Right.
So let me speak life to my child. Everything changed.
Yes. Yes. But there is, men do hold a very, very important role.
Say it again, girl.
As women do. Because even with a a kid that doesn't have their mother. You see that they grow up less tender, less understanding, less willing to show their emotions. That's the woman's job. The woman is to show like this is a safe space, and you should be able to talk and to express yourself. With Eli, anytime Eli's upset, I'm like, have your emotions. Your emotions are yours. Like, go and have your emotions. But then when you don't have that father figure, also, a woman cannot say what you want to say, but a woman cannot show a man how to be a man. You're not a man, unfortunately. But then a man can't show their child how to be, sensitive, emotional, have their feelings, or to choose a good wife. Because a woman is supposed to show all of the characteristics. The woman is supposed to show all of the characteristics of what a wife should look like. With Eli, I hope he doesn't get someone as difficult as me, but I'm supposed to show Eli how I am John's help, in the sense. So he is going to look at me and say, I want, one day I want a wife that's going to resemble my mom in a way. With Mimi, I want her, I call her beautiful. John calls her beautiful. We hug her whenever she wants a hug. There's times where she'll be on the couch and she'll just lay her hand out, and I'm like, and she does it with John too. She'll just be like, Dad, give me your hand, and John will give her hand. But John is supposed to show her what her future husband is going to be like. So she's going to look at John like, I want a husband that's going to be like my father, or treat my mom, or treat me the way my dad treated my mom. So very, very important. So any other questions or comments before we close out? No? Good? All right, so we are going to
Just Chase.
You okay, Chase? Okay. One comment? Oh, that was his one comment. Hi. All right, so we'll pray out.